It's time for Takes on Takes, the weekly episode where we give our takes on your take today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada Player of the Week later in the show.
Joe, we just did a heck of a podcast.
Yeah.
We got in the pre-show together and looked down, and you said, hey, I got to go. We got a thing at a certain time. I looked up. We did talking football life for 36 minutes.
Yeah,
whole
cover a lot of
podcast we did.
topics. A lot of
The
topics.
show.
Yeah, we did it. The good news is we didn't really talk about anything that we're actually going to talk about in the podcast. So at least there's that piece of it, right? So all this will be fresh commentary that we discuss right now. Shall we?
Let's do it.
First one comes from Paul. Paul says drafting a quarterback and building an all-star team while he's on a rookie deal is a flawed concept for legitimate success. It only worked with Russell Wilson because Seattle had an all-time great drafts in the preceding years. Otherwise, this concept has largely failed.
Can we agree it's a very fine needle to thread if you're going to pull it off?
It's a fine needle to thread to win the Super Bowl no matter what, right? Like, can we start there?
Yeah. Especially in the era of, like, it seems like you go back to the 90s, the 80s, felt like there was a little bit more parity with, like, championship windows. I mean, you look at, like, 2000 on, right? It's Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes. What percentage of Super Bowls played since 2000 is made up of those three players, right? Like,
A lot.
and there's guys that have, like, I get it. Other guys have a lot of rings, but it feels like the pre-free agency era of football actually gave, like, more variety at the top when the season was all said and done.
What's wrong with the concept? How is it a bad idea to maximize the talent around a young quarterback when they're less expensive? Like, just because it hasn't necessarily been like the consistent winner of the Super Bowl doesn't mean it's not a bad idea. That's all about getting the right players in the building, right? Regardless of how you do it. But I don't think there's anything wrong with this. Like, this is your best opportunity before those cap hits become massive. Like, go try to do it.
I'm going to borrow something that you told me in the pre-show. It's never one thing.
Yeah, never one thing.
It's never one thing. So whatever needs to be the main thing for you is fine, but just know it's never one thing.
Yeah, the reason that more teams haven't won the Super Bowl under this plan isn't just because they tried to get a lot of good players around a quarterback on a rookie deal. It's not just that, right? All right, Weekly Huddle says the inflection point where athleticism at offensive tackle over technique becomes a point of diminishing return is lower than any other position. Give me an offensive tackle who checks all the boxes athletically and can still show technique over the athletic anomaly who struggles with the small things.
I think that the trench play in general is a very technically essential position, right?
Yeah.
The margins are very slim there, and their margins are slim everywhere. But especially in the offensive line, when you are, I know this is an ideology that exists across the league. Like it doesn't matter how athletic you are, you're going to be at an athleticism disadvantage more often than not against defensive linemen who are playing forward, and you are playing backwards more often than not in pass protection.
Yep.
So the technique of it, yes, I think I would rather have a technician than a raw athlete who leans on being longer and wider, longer, and just executes that way.
I'm with you. I think it's a good take. Stelio says this, and we got a bunch of different ways of talking about the Joe Milton trade. So I went with this one. We had one that said that the Cowboys should be planning to trade Dak Prescott as soon as possible to lean into Joe Milton. This is what Stelio says. The Browns should have traded for Joe Milton and draft Abdul Carter. Carter is better and more surefire than Shedeur Sanders. The difference between Milton and Sanders isn't as much as people think. People are going nuts about Joe Milton. Looked like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen against the Bills backups in Week 18. Like he did. It was one of the best quarterback performances you have seen in 2024.
Yep.
But the Patriots spent the entire year around this guy. Spent the entire year. Watch that happen. You said, you know what? We'll give him away for a bag of balls. That's got to stand for something, right?
Yeah, I didn't forget what the 6 years in college looked like with Joe Milton.
Rough.
What kind of dog are you?
That was my
woof.
That was my Labrador. See what else I can break out the rest of the way here.
Yeah. I think it's a great move from New England to. No, there's what is it? Jimmy Kempski with the Eagles coverage. It says the quarterback factory, and the Philly always churns out backup quarterbacks and gets assets that are greater than what they invested to get them in the first place. And I think it's a good move from New England in that regard, just because the sample size of one game of Joe Milton, and he's obviously not going to play there unless there's a significant injury to Drake May. Cash out while you can, get what you can. I think it's a good move.
Yeah. How many times are we going to do the Matt Flynn, Rob Johnson thing and anoint? Yeah, dude, it's crazy. This is crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Milton is interesting. I think it could be a good trade for both teams. Right? Like Dallas, sure.
Can we not with Dak versus Joe Milton, though?
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
Never mind how they structured the contract and all the deferred money. Like, you're talking about $180 million cap charge.
Yeah, it's not right. Right. It's a perfectly fine move for a backup quarterback. I think other teams should have been interested in this. I'm with that. But then also, like the Shedeur Sanders versus Joe Milton piece of this take, I mean, the difference.
Sanders is a much better passer.
Yeah, for
He's
sure.
Just not as athletically gifted.
All right, Brad. Brad says the Panthers should take Matthew Golden or a stud tight end at 8 to complete the receiving core and elevate Bryce Young, who will elevate the entire team. No. Supporting and developing your quarterback should always come first, considering the positional depth in the draft. Yeah, I'm all the way out on this, mostly because I think the last thing the Panthers need is more young skill players around Bryce Young. I mean, they have enough of that already. Coker, Leggett, Jatavion Sanders, that's a lot of youth already in that group. If you want to make a move to add around Bryce Young, how about we get a veteran receiver to go with our youth, and let's continue getting this defense to a point where it's passable so that Bryce Young doesn't have to try to get the Panthers to score 38 points to win a freaking football game.
I'll make this as straightforward as I can in my frame of mind. You're picking at number 8 overall. You want to pick a wide receiver? Great. You get out of number 8 overall.
Yeah.
Get yourself appropriate value for your pick. To just take a wide receiver in the name of taking a wide receiver, for me, I don't covet those guys. I wouldn't covet them at 16. Never mind at 8. So that's a lot of missed marginal cost to just check a box in my mind.
And I think the Panthers, and this is not a Dan Morgan thing, it's, he's new on the job, but I think they've missed so many opportunities to trade back.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's another good angle. Not only do I not think you need to have a developing weapon around a developing quarterback, if you do want that, help yourself out and get some better value. All right, we got a lot more to get to. Some good takes on the rule changes, and Kyle and I will chime in on that next. Folks, be sure to stick with us. The Armada Player of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, we're going to take a look at draft prospects to pick one guy that stands apart, the guy we believe showcased the strength and power needed to push a team forward as we look ahead to the next season. Our team to focus on this week is the San Francisco 49ers. And I want to bring up a player that we picked for the 49ers in our mock draft that we did earlier this week. And this week's Armada and clear-cut player of the week is Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant. The 49ers defensive line has been a mess for a few years now and needs major reinforcements, especially on the interior. And just like the Armada is built for a heavy-duty workload, Kenneth Grant does the same defending the run and rushing the passer. This dude is a dancing bear. He's big, powerful, and athletic. He's got tremendous lateral range, unrealized pass rush upside, and is a force defending the run. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what I think Kenneth Grant can do for the 49ers. It's clear that our player of the week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of their outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com.
All right, what do you got?
Chris says if an NFL game ends in a tie score, which feels more likely based on the new overtime rules, it should count as a loss for both teams.
No.
This would encourage both teams to play for the win rather than playing not to lose. Both teams failed to win the game. Thus, it should be a loss for both teams.
It counts as neither a win or a loss. That's why it's a tie.
Right, but he's saying that it should count as a loss.
But no.
Are you excited about more ties in the NFL, Kyle Grabs? You excited about this?
I don't want more ties in the NFL.
Well, we're getting them. Both teams get the ball. It's 10 minutes.
Right. One team's going to go on a 7.5-minute touchdown drive. The other team's going to put together a successful 2-minute and then decide, do we go for 2 in the win or the loss, or do we just
I hope they do every freaking time. I hope they do every single time.
That should have been the rule. In overtime, no, if you score touchdowns in overtime and both teams guaranteed to get the ball, you have to go for 2.
How about we just do the college overtime? The more and more we try to tweak overtime, the more I'm convinced the college overtime is the way to go.
It's a lot of fun, isn't it? Although I didn't like the change in college where it just became 2-point plays. We should never get to that point. You should have to go for 2, but it should never just be like a shootout of 2-point plays. Yeah, it should be alternating possessions at the 25 or the 30.
Yeah.
Or put it at the 35 at the NFL if you want, because the kicker's got the boomers. Yeah. And just alternate until possessions end and the score is no longer tied.
That seems better. I just don't want ties. I'm not here for any of that. There's people have been telling on themselves. People are out there saying they want ties. No. It's crazy to me.
No.
All right, Joe at work says the NFL migrating to technology-based first downs to replace the chain gang is decades overdue. Bonus take, if you think I'm going to find a new phrase to replace keep the chains moving, I'm not. I think people are really not quite understanding this whole new chain thing. The spot of nothing changes with the spot of the ball. It's only to measure, right? It's only to measure. So when they need a measurement, it'll be done with this whatever technology exists. And humans are still spotting the ball. Nothing's really different here.
I still have random issues with my internet at my house. You don't think there's a chance for a technological? I think there's still gonna be chain gang on the sideline,
right?
So we're literally just talking about measuring. What happens? There's a software outage and it doesn't work at a stadium, right? Like,
good thing we got the chains, man.
That's right.
Still be there. It'll be visually. I would have that would be difficult to watch all 22 tape and not have the chains there. It's a critical part of my process. I need to be able to see the chains, so they have to always be there. Max says, you ban the tush push by being better on 1st through 3rd down and force the Eagles into 4th and long situations to where the play isn't an option to pick up the yardage.
I kind of believe this, but also the Eagles could get the 3rd and 3 and run it twice and still just automatically get the 1st down. I don't have a problem with the tush push.
Yeah,
I'm tired of the discourse around the tush push.
I agree. but it doesn't seem to be going away, although it didn't pass, but it's tabled.
Yeah,
And
which means
16 teams
politic.
there's a lot of teams that are like for this. There's momentum. This is real. And I have a hard time really understanding it. I have a really hard time understanding how the head coach of the Buffalo Bills says that it's bad for player safety and then is the number 2 team in terms of running the tush push. He says the most important thing is protecting Josh Allen.
He's not worried about his quarterback getting hurt.
I think he is. Well, I don't understand it. I don't understand.
Worried about his defensive players and what his defensive players have to be exposed to try to stop the play, and those guys getting hurt.
I don't know, man.
I'm pro let legal plays stay legal plays, just be even though they're hard to stop.
And it gets very dicey, like whenever you want to apply this to like an open field situation where, I mean, offensive linemen come and they push the ball carrier all the time. Like that can't happen anymore. Like I think that's goofy. I hope that this doesn't happen. Just keep it. It's insane to me. Von Tell, we have forgotten the Cardinals got Calais Campbell and Dalvin Tomlinson and Josh Sweat. We are no longer we are not talking about defensive linemen anymore. We're on to corners. Von Tell says Trey Amos should be in the CB1 discussion with both Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron. He doesn't have the durability concern that Will has, nor the frame concern that Jahdae has. He is very good at zone, man, off, and press. I actually like him more than Barron.
I respectfully disagree, but I like Trey Amos as a player. I have a late 1, early 2 on him. He's in my top 35 players. I'm top 200 big board just dropping today at the 33rd team.
I know the fun thing is you just told us you're up to 250, so we know you're hoarding some of that.
Yeah, we're gonna wait. There's nothing worse than putting it up and then like doing a player that immediately goes to like
nothing worse
210
honestly.
out of 260, and I'm like, I just got to move 50 names down. No, I'm gonna put the cutoff where I kind of feel comfortable that I feel pretty good about who I have in that block.
Yeah. I think takes like this put us in a weird spot because I think both of us really do like Trey Amos, exactly the same range, late 1, early 2, but it's like I'm not willing to go there. And I think the whole point is that, yeah, you want to let us know that you are. I think I don't know that I see the same level of instincts. I don't see the same tackling ability. I mean, there's a lot to like about Trey Amos. I just don't think he's quite as refined as those other guys. And that's okay,
and he's a 5th-year player and I know Jahdae Barron broke out in year 5 as well. But Jahdae Barron broke out in year 5 in a different position, but still the nickel tape was still really good. Versus Amos going to stop at at Louisiana, and then the year at Alabama, and then he gets to Ole Miss, and everything clicks into place, and that's great. But I just think it creates a little bit more variance and question on what it needs to look like around him.
Yeah.
Be successful.
Hey,
speaking of Von Tell, and we talked about the defensive line. They don't seem to like offensive linemen as mock draft picks. Do you have a mock draft fit that you like for Arizona right now?
Yeah, Cardinals fans are always mad about everything with mock drafts.
The few but the mighty.
You know what's funny is
they are mighty in the mentions.
I went through just recently and I established my list of needs for the NFC West. And so let me take a gander. If I could just type, it's hard to type when you're under pressure and you know that you got to get it done.
It's especially
I have it.
Like I'll buy you a little bit of time here.
Okay,
I'm doing all my prospect spotlights.
Yeah,
on Locked On Dolphins, and I have like 4 different tabs, but I don't want to have 12 different tabs open because then my computer doesn't like it. So I have like a tab on each site, and then I have to put the new name of the new player in for each segment. So you can watch me, and it's like you can see the steam pouring out of my ears where I'm trying to talk and finish the thought and simultaneously type somebody else.
Yeah, that's tough. Cardinals, my top 3 needs for the Arizona Cardinals. Number 1 is off-ball linebacker. I think it's kind of an unserious situation, like very unserious. It's like, is it Wilson and Akeem Davis-Gaither? I'm out on that. I want to get
Walker and Owen Popo.
Yeah, we need an off-ball backer. Corner, I think is Sean Murphy Bunting. Is there a long-term future there? I'd be thinking about that. And also wide receiver. I think that they with Harrison, I love Marvin Harrison, but Michael Wilson and Zay Jones is my 2 and 3. That doesn't satisfy me. I know Trey McBride's Yeah. So
you're a big
is he still there?
Greg Dortch guy.
I don't think he's still there. I don't think he's
Greg Dortch is on the depth chart.
Oh, silly me. Yeah, but so another receiver.
You
so I think those
receiver 3 behind Greg Dortch.
Yeah, obviously, because that's your one. Your one is Greg Dortch, and then you get to Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, and Marvin Harrison's your 2, and
Michael Wilson.
Trey McBride got a big contract extension yesterday.
He did. Big shout out. So wide receiver,
tight end, right?
Highest paid. Yeah, 19 a year. Not bad.
Healthy.
A little, almost $2 million more than Kelsey. So good for the tight end market. But would have been like the
draft Jihad Campbell if he's there. It's at their pick.
I just don't think he gets there.
You know,
I really don't.
The midpoint of the first round with a shoulder question.
I feel like there's some landmines along the way.
Okay, sell me on the landmines.
Dallas, Miami, Indy.
Miami's not picking a linebacker.
Oh, they do pick 16.
Yeah.
Who did we give Jihad Campbell to on our mock?
Don't make me talk and type, and I'll type and figure it out if you give me a second.
Well, we're at a really weird spot because we got to go to break, and you have to type. You have buttons to push.
No, I'm okay. First round mock draft, we gave Jihad Campbell to Dallas.
Okay.
In the mock.
That's there you go. There's a landmine for you.
McShay hears they like Ted McMillan though.
You know, we'll just have to wait to the end of April and find out. All right, we got more to get to, including an English colloquialism. We'll talk about that here on the other side. Yeah, stick with us.
How many times did you practice saying colloquialism?
0, and I don't even know if I said it well.
Sounded good to me.
Thank you. We'll go right to that one from Kyle, not you. It's a different Kyle. This is what Kyle says. Good Lord, this is going to be bad. I up me duck. You familiar with this? This is an English.
I up me duck.
AY space UP space ME and then the word duck, like a quacking duck. I up. Yeah, it's an English colloquialism.
Do you know what colloquial means?
I'm guessing it's like a phrase or a saying or an expression.
Used in ordinary or familiar conversation, but not formal or literary.
So, I up me duck is a friendly, informal greeting similar to hello or howdy. It's used by the East Midlands and Yorkshire regions of England, with duck acting as a term of endearment. So, like we say, what's up, dog? You know, it's a term of endearment. A dog, they go with the duck. All right.
I up me duck.
I up me duck.
That's good. That's going to stick. Maybe not on the show, but in our personal conversations,
I say we bring it right here. We got a lot of friends in England. We can do that. Anyways, Kyle has a take. James.
That wasn't it from him. He just didn't want
to. No. He actually had something he'd like us to talk about.
Good.
James Pierce, that's the edge rusher for Tennessee, won't be selected in the first round or the second round of the NFL draft. He's a slightly better version of Jay Sanders. Man, I have a feeling if Kyle saw James Pierce on the road, he wouldn't say, I up me duck. He'd probably look the other way.
Yeah, it feels a little aggressive to go that far.
I think he gets drafted in the second round.
I think he gets drafted in the second round as well. I have him 44th on my board. So I think there's enough of a need at pass rush across the league, even though it is a great pass rush class. I think he profiles well enough that I think he will go round 2.
Darren says if Sanders, that would be Shedeur Sanders, falls out of the top 10, I believe a sneaky team to pick him up would be the 49ers. Both Sanders and Purdy are very similar in skill set from what I've read. He distinguishes himself as a UK fan, and it would help the 49ers in resetting their salary cap.
I just don't get the sense they have the appetite to do that. They've been very... Lynch has talked about the cash spend of the organization. I think he talked about it at the owners' meetings and said, once we get the quarterback extension done, our cash spend is going to come back up to kind of more in the stratosphere of where you'd expect it looks like, because their cash burn's big time low this year, and they let all these other players walk, in part because they have 200, hypothetically, I'm pulling this number off the top of my head, but like $260 million is their cash budget. But if they sign Purdy with a $50 million signing bonus, you're going to be over $300 million in cash burn, and it's going to be higher. So I think that they didn't let everything else happen with all the other players who left to then in turn just say, never mind, we're just going to draft you at 11. You know, I feel like you're committed to this path with how you chose to handle your other personnel decisions and budget accordingly.
So you think the tea leaves say that Brock Purdy's getting an extension?
Mm-hmm.
Should he?
And if you didn't, then shame on you for letting some of your other foundational players leave. And I get some of them it was time to move on from, but like I know they wanted to keep Dre Greenlaw as an example.
I do not envy anything about coming to terms on that deal, and I especially don't envy Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker as the host of Locked On 49ers to navigate that with the fan base. That feels very challenging because I'm sure there's a lot of wide-ranging opinions on that.
As somebody who lived a very similar discourse,
you're not wrong about that.
Contract discussion last year, not fun. And you're there's a sense you kind of feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
I agree.
Right. And is the hypothetical, the colloquialism, the devil you know versus the devil you don't, that's probably not really applicable.
I think it's fine. I think it checks out. I knew what you meant.
Saying the devil you know versus the devil you don't is that, how do you weigh that out? And for the dollar amount that you're talking about, it is naturally going to spur a lot of wide-ranging opinions.
All right, August is up now. And August has got a little bit of a
August's weekly take.
Yeah, but I have several of them in here. So the take is that only one team will make 2 picks in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft, the New England Patriots. Supplemental take, which I think goes hand in hand with this, the only team that will not make a first round pick in the 2025 NFL draft is the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's pretty logical, right? So the Patriots, I think they got in trouble last year with what happened at the end of the first, early second round, and it didn't go the way that they wanted to. So I could definitely see them trading back in to the first round. They have pick 38, 69, 77, 106, 144.
Mm-hmm.
And I think invoking the Minnesota Vikings makes a lot of sense. They only have 4 picks, 24, 97, 139, and 187. You can't see New England trading up from 38 to get to 24. I'm not sure about all the other details, that it would only be the Patriots and the Viking. I'm not sure that another team or two wouldn't do this, but I think there's a lot of good logic in what August is saying.
12, I'm counting 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. My question is, Minnesota right now you would say is a top blank roster in football. It could be a conservative. It could be a conservative.
12. I would say 12.
How many roster spots do you think they're going to have available?
More than 4.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure they can roster 6 or 7 rookies.
That's the question of what they have in the pipe for the young players that are there that like you don't know the answer to, is just how many roster spots are you expecting to have competition for? Because it's kind of overkill if you only expect to have 6 roster spots that you're expecting to be available for competition to turn around and want to collect a bunch of draft capital. But with the picks being as few as they are, I think your point has merit as far as Minnesota.
Man, we're talking about some potentially high picks too. Like they going from 38 to 24. Then that's going to get them something meaningful,
right?
So, and then August had a little sneak in take, and it's a food take, so we got to do it. Country fried steak and eggs is the goat of all breakfast dishes. Why does that have to be country fried? That's where you lost me. You know about country fried steak?
I'm familiar.
I don't need that part. Like
the breading.
Yeah, I don't need breading on my steak.
Give me
a regular freaking piece of, like, I don't not want that breading pretty much on anything. So
would you rather do a country fried steak or a well done steak?
Country fried.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm a huge steak and eggs guy. Dude, one time I got so excited to make steak and eggs. I've been like going on a kick, and it's your fault. We go to the freaking Cracker Barrel, and we get the whatever that breakfast is, and it got me
Country
turned
boy
on.
breakfast.
Yeah, it got me turned on to steak and eggs. So I'll never forget. I was still dating my wife, and I was like, I'm gonna make dinner, and I came home with a dozen eggs, and I had New York strip steaks. So we had big, like 16-ounce New York strips, and I fried up a bunch of eggs, and boy, we had some steak and eggs.
What was the reaction? Were we on board, or were we?
I mean, it was delicious. It was definitely like pretty extra, like
no, but like what was the missus's reaction to you're making what for dinner?
Kyle, it was early on. It was early on. I could do no wrong.
Got it.
Early on.
Very good. Try and pull it off tonight. See how it goes.
She still jokes about it. I think my wife would just be happy that I cooked, and I do. I do multiple times a week. And actually, we have great dinner plans tonight. We're actually going out for wings, so I'm excited about that. We'll finish with this. Matt says this will be the first draft since 2019 to have 3 or less wide receivers taken in the first round. Our weekly slander the wide receiver class take here on Takes on Takes. 3 or less. I think it's probably the right number, right?
Probably.
You think 4? The real question is, does 4 get drafted?
Yeah, the line should be 3.5, right?
I'd probably put money on the under. Because you would need who you need to sneak in. Luther Burden would have to sneak in because we're assuming Golden, Abuka, and Tet, right?
Yeah.
We sure. I mean, I feel pretty good that those 3 get drafted, but maybe not. And then I would need all of those 3 plus predictively. Who's the next guy? Is it Burden?
Burden's would be the next name. Yeah.
Is there even another name to invoke that like predictively? Who's another receiver that's not one of those 4 that you would honestly say right now? Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he snuck in.
No.
I mean, so Ricky Parasol snuck in, and I know that's not a surprise to you, but that was generally a surprise.
Should not have been a surprise to anybody at all.
Xavier Leggett got in last year. That was a surprise to some people.
Yeah, but I think there's enough defensive talent at the top that it's going to keep those guys out. I would take under on 3.5.
If you had to bet on a 5th receiver, so let's assume Burden's in. Who's predictively a 5th receiver gets in? Man, I see this Trey Harris getting sometimes mocked at the end of the first round. I don't get it.
No.
Predictively, though. It doesn't really matter what we think.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance Trey Harris predictively goes in the first round. I think it would either be one of the Ohio State kids or Jack Batch.
Who's the other Ohio State receiver?
Iowa State.
Got you.
Higgins or Knoll or Jack Batch.
We're not getting – okay, we loosely might get to 4. We're definitely not getting to 5.
Yeah.
Right.
That's going to do it. Takes on Takes in the books. Kyle Krabs, Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys as always for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your Friday. Make it a great weekend. We will be back to talk more build up to the 2025 NFL Draft on Monday, and we hope to see you then.